March 6, 2026. We are in the 5th year and this is day 11 since the start of the full-scale invasion. Welcome. I greet you to the Situation Report. In today's report, we mainly see quite a lot of background news. We also see several attacks on important targets in Crimea. And what we will also see is the mood at the front. There were barely any territorial gains today, so I left them out of the report. A Russian soldier has published a video in which he warns people not to volunteer for the war in Ukraine. In the recording, he mainly complains about the lack of supplies at the front. We recently saw a video where a Russian soldier once again had to drink from a puddle because the supply situation is so bad that it won't even reach the front trenches and foxholes anymore. According to his own statements, he and his comrades have been stuck in a bunker for 4 days without food or drinking water. In the video, he shows how they are trying to survive. He shows a bag of snow and says that's their food. Water is also hardly available. The soldier explains that they are trying to melt snow in a teapot to at least get some drinking water. Only because they found some oil were they even able to make a small fire to heat the snow. According to the soldier, the video is mainly meant as a warning for those who are considering volunteering for the so-called special operation. Yesterday, we saw that Zelensky warned against continuing to block aid packages to Ukraine, and he was targeting Hungary without mentioning it by name. He said something along the lines of, if a certain person uses their veto again to block this aid, then he would give that person's address to Ukrainian soldiers so they could speak to him in their own language. In Hungary, 2 armored cash transporters were stopped as a result, which were supposed to bring cash and bank metals from Austria to Ukraine, meaning gold. According to the Ukrainian National Bank, 7 employees of a cash-in-transit team accompanied the delivery. They were arrested during the operation. The bank stated that the transport was part of the agreement with Raiffeisenbank International. The Hungarian tax authority Nemzeti Adó és Vámhivatal confirmed that the measure was taken as part of an investigation against Ukraine on suspicion of money laundering. The news portal TEDx reported, citing eyewitnesses, that officers from the Hungarian Anti-Terror Unit Counter-Terrorism Center had stopped the vehicles at a highway rest area. According to the report, the officers pulled men out of the vehicles and brought them to the ground. The involvement of Counter-Terrorism Center was later confirmed by authorities, and we can also see a video of it here. The unit is considered to be politically very closely connected to Viktor Orbán. According to the Hungarian tax authority, among those accompanying the shipment was also the former general of a Ukrainian intelligence service. The statement said, among other things, that just this year, 900 million United States dollars, 420 million euros, and 146 kilos of gold have already flowed through Hungary into Ukraine. The authorities did not explain why these transfers have not been stopped so far, nor did they want to explain why such a transfer is being stopped now after this statement. The Ukrainian foreign minister reacted sharply and accused Hungary of effectively holding the bank employees hostage. On the platform X, he wrote, "If this is the strength Viktor Orbán is talking about, then it is the strength of a criminal gang and constitutes state terrorism." Both armored cash transport vehicles are currently in the center of Budapest, near a state security agency. According to the bank, the vehicles contained about $40 million, 35 million euros, and approximately 9 kilos of gold. The incident is, of course, connected to the tense relationship between Hungary and Ukraine. The background is the dispute over Russian oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline, which partly runs through Ukrainian territory. Following pipeline damage from Russian attacks, Budapest is urging for rapid transit resumption. Kyiv, however, points out that a quick repair is currently not possible. In the course of the conflict, Hungary is also blocking a European Union loan for Ukraine worth billions, which has, of course, further increased political tensions. Frustration is also growing within the Russian pro-war scene about the state of the country and the army. In a recent post, a Russian military blogger criticizes several decisions made by the leadership, ranging from internet censorship to the situation at the front. The criticism of the state bans and restrictions on the internet is particularly harsh. Many measures are poorly thought out and seem more like symbolic moral policies than serious solutions to problems. For example, several internet programs, such as messenger services, are blocked in order to better promote the Russian-controlled messenger service Max, which often repels users, and by the way, also listens in on them. Not only when you send messages, but even while typing, they're automatically transmitted. He also mentions absurd censorship practices as an example, where content is artificially toned down and superficial social media culture is further promoted. A second point is defending against Ukrainian drone attacks in Russia's interior. The blogger argues that measures such as shutting down mobile internet should actually be necessary. However, such steps should have been prepared much earlier, when the first drones with long-term evolution connections appeared. Instead, the leadership only reacted later. The result is now hasty and partly chaotic solutions, such as large-scale internet shutdowns or complicated whitelist systems, which massively affect the daily lives of the population. In the end, the author touches on a rather sensitive topic, the personnel issue of the Russian army. He suggests that the influx of new contract soldiers is not unlimited. Although a declining economic situation may drive more people into military service in the short term, the question remains, how motivated are such soldiers really? And what happens when this influx eventually dries up? That could mean another round of mobilization might become necessary, which is very unpopular in Russia. The United States of America and Qatar are currently in talks with Kyiv to acquire Ukrainian systems for detecting Shahed drones, as well as equipment for electronic warfare. That's according to the news agency Reuters. The main focus is on acoustic detection systems that were developed in Ukraine. The sensors can detect the characteristic engine sounds of a Shahed drone and provide early warning of incoming attacks. Such systems play an important role, especially at night or at low altitudes, when traditional radar systems have difficulty detecting drones. Since the start of the massive Russian drone attacks, Ukraine has built an entire network of acoustic sensors, observation posts, and electronic jamming. The combination of early detection and electronic countermeasures is now considered one of the most effective methods to combat the relatively simple but numerous Shahed drones being used. The fact that only the United States and countries in the Middle East are still showing interest in this technology highlights how much Ukraine has developed into an important center of experience and innovation in drone defense in recent years. Some footage from the Poltava region shows a Russian Garant 2 drone flying at extremely low altitude over 5-story residential buildings. Such flight profiles are no coincidence. The Russians are learning as well. At first, they were used to protect high-flying missiles and cruise missiles as decoys, since they flooded the airspace and sometimes overwhelmed air defenses. Now, the Russians are increasingly tending to actually use the Garant as a kamikaze drone. They are deliberately flown at low altitude through cities and along buildings to evade radar systems and reduce the likelihood of being shot down. When drones fly so close over rooftops or even over buildings, they partially disappear into so-called terrain shadows for many systems. At the same time, it becomes much more difficult for air defense systems to engage them without posing a risk to the surrounding civilian population. For the people on the ground, this has long become a part of everyday life. For 4 years now, many Ukrainians have been living with exactly these situations: nightly drones, low flights over residential areas, and the constant sound of engines in the sky. Russian soldiers from the 79th Regiment have released footage from a completely flooded shelter, which apparently serves as accommodation and a staging area. In the video, you can see that the water in the bunker is ankle-deep in some places. Under such conditions, some soldiers have to sleep there, rest, and also prepare for their missions. The constant dampness, cold, and standing water makes staying there extremely stressful. And according to the cameraman, you could compare it to living in one of the best apartments in London, just so you get a sense of what the situation is like on the ground. In a conversation about the situation at the front, Putin asked his military leadership about the state of communications on the battlefields. I find her evasive answer incredibly good. Just read what's written there. Her answers came across as very uncertain. Several officers seemed hesitant. The spokeswoman spoke evasively and eventually had to admit that no real solution has been found for the existing communication problems so far, only warm words. And That's very remarkable because stable communication is an extremely central and essential part of modern warfare, especially in a conflict that is heavily characterized by real-time drone reconnaissance in an uncoordinated manner. If units at the front lose their data connections or can only communicate in a limited way, then the coordination of attacks, reconnaissance, and supplies suffers directly as a result. And then to give such a lousy answer like, well, we haven't really clarified that yet, but everything is going pretty well, is really a sign of incompetence. But it also shows that there is no better alternative. Ukrainian military intelligence special forces have again attacked and destroyed multiple Russian targets in occupied Crimea. According to Ukrainian sources, they hit both naval and aerial targets as well as elements of the Russian air defense. Among the destroyed targets was the patrol ship Okhotnik, which is a ship of Project 264. A radar station of an S-400 air defense system is a high-value target, since the S-400 is useless without radar. The facility also had several reconnaissance drones. The sea tug with the project designation name 1496M-1, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2, a supply ship 1696M-2A, and specifically into one that reflects the Ukrainian strategy in Crimea. For months, they have been trying of the 1696M-2, a supply ship of the project, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2, a supply ship of Project 1696M-2 opened small gaps in the Russian air defense network. As a result, it becomes easier for Ukrainian drones, missiles, or special operations to reach targets in Crimea. At the same time, Russian units also lose the ability to detect attacks early. The fact that not only radar and air defense, but also ships and helicopters are being attacked is, of course, part of this strategy. These platforms are often used for reconnaissance, securing the coast, combating sea drones, and supporting air defense systems. So the overarching goal is clear. Ukraine is still trying, step by step, to undermine Russian control over the airspace of Crimea in order to be able to operate there more frequently and at greater depth in the future. Thanks to all subscribers, channel members, and the Algo crew, especially Lieutenant Colonel Renekes and Director Dietrich Friedrich Meyerhofer. Please subscribe, like, comment, and see you in the next situation report.